Now, I'll be the first one to say on 23 through 26, there may be an easier way to handle these. I don't know. For me, this is the easiest way to do this. We're going to use a system of equations, but unlike the arithmetic sequences, we were able to use elimination method. Because with the arithmetic, we're dealing with exponents, we have to use substitution. So as a reminder, in order to find the explicit formula, or when you're dealing with the explicit formula, that's our first term times the ratio to the n minus 1. So we're going to find what our ratio is using the explicit formula from the information we're given. We're going to set this up just like we did the arithmetic sequences. My fourth term is negative 12, so I'm going to say negative 12 is equal to our a first term times the ratio, because we don't know what the ratio is, to the, well, that's the fourth term, so 4 minus 1 will give me 3, so that's the third power, okay? Now, our second one is going to be negative 6, so this is going to be negative 6 is equal to a first term times the ratio to the 5 minus 1 is 4, okay? Now, I'm going to divide this by r to the fifth power. Okay? Now, this is going to give me a first term is equal to negative 6. Oops, that should be fourth, not fifth. Sorry. I'm glad I caught that. And then this is going to be negative 6 divided by r to the fourth. Okay, I'm going to substitute this in for our a sub 1 in our other equation. So I'm going to say negative 12 is equal to, parentheses, negative 6 over r4, or I don't need parentheses, I'm going to leave that out. Negative 6 over r to the fourth times r to the 3. Now, if you notice and you recall, this is a division, so that would be negative 6 r to the 3. Well, these I can reduce, so that just becomes, let me erase some of this work here just so that I have room. So this becomes negative 12 is equal to negative 6 r to the 1 power. Okay, so this doesn't look so bad. Now I want to solve for r. So in order to solve for r, I'm going to take and multiply both sides by r. That's going to cancel out r on that side, and this becomes negative 12r is equal to negative 6. I'm now going to divide by negative 12. That's going to give me a ratio of positive 1/2. So my ratio is a is 1/2. Okay, we don't know the first term, and we could go back and find the first term if we needed to, but since we're looking at the recursive formula, which the recursive formula, to remind you, is going to be the an times the prior term, n minus 1, times the ratio. So we don't really need to know our first term in order to write the recursive formula. All we need to know is our r. So now that we found our r, I'm going to go ahead and write our formula. So our formula of this is going to be the an is equal to an minus 1 times 1/2. All right, so let's go ahead and do number 24. Now, technically, you didn't have to do that whole process because we're given two terms in consecutive. We're given a to the fourth, or a sub 4 and a sub 5. So 4 is the prior term. So I could have taken negative 6 and divided that by negative 12, and that would have given me 1/2, and that would have given you a ratio. Now on 24, 25, and 26, we can't do that because they are not consecutive terms. So on those, I'm going to have to do just like we did with number 23. So let's go ahead and work through those. So I've got 768 is equal to our first term times the ratio to the 5 minus 1 is going to give me 4. Okay? And then our second one is going to be 12 is equal to a sub 1 times r. 2 minus 1 is 1, so I'm just going to leave that as r. And then I'm going to divide this by r. So my first term is going to be equal to 12 over r. So this one's going to work out very nice for us. So this is going to be 768 is equal to a1. Or we're going to substitute in, let me highlight. So we're going to substitute that in for a sub 1. So this is going to be 12 over r times r to the fourth. Now, this is just like dividing exponents. So that's going to be 4 minus 1, which is going to give me 3. So this is going to become 768 is equal to 12 r to the third power. Okay? I'm now going to divide by 12. That's going to give me 768 divided by 12 gives me 64. So this becomes 64 is equal to r to the third. Now, in order to cancel out that r to the third, I'm going to take the cube root of both of these. Okay? So then that's going to give me r is equal to the cube root, when I put that in my calculator. Remember, that's the number that's going to be multiplied by itself 3 times. In order to get to the cube root, I'll show you in my graphing calculator. So I'm going to go to second math, math. Yeah, just hit math. And if you notice on that fourth term down that says 3 and then root, that's the cube root. So that puts the index as 3, and then I'm going to put in 64, and that gives me 4. 4 times 4 times 4 gives me 64. So r, my ratio, is equal to 4. So now I found my ratio, so now I'm going to write my recursive formula. So an is going to be equal to an minus 1 times our ratio of 4. And that is our answer for number 24. All right, let's go ahead and do 25. I would recommend that you try to do 25 and 26 on your own. See if you can get it while I work it through and then come back. So our first term is going to be negative 2 is equal to a1. This one works out nicely for us, actually, because this tells us that our first term, because that's going to end up being our ratio to the 1 minus 1, which is 0. Anything to the power of 0 is 1. So our first term is just going to be negative 2. Okay? Now, we still need to work this out because we don't know what our ratio is. We know our first term, but we don't know the ratio. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up. So this is going to be negative 512 is equal to, we could do this. We could say, since we know the first term is negative 2, we could say negative 2 times r to the power of 4, because 5 minus 1 is 4. So then this is going to become, we're going to divide by negative 2. So 512 divided by 2 gives me 256. 256 is equal to r to the fourth power. Now, just like we did before on our calculator, I want to think, you can think of it this 2 ways. You can say, well, what term can I think of that would be multiplied by itself 4 times to equal 256? And you could do it. You could sit there and say 1 times 1 times 1, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. You could do 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. You could go it that way, or we can use our handy-dandy calculator. And we're going to go back to math. And if you look here on number 5, that says n and then square root. That gives me a blank index number, so that allows me to write my index number in. So I can say a fourth root, and then that number was 256, and I'm going to hit enter, and that's 4. So it happened to be 4. So if we had kept going and we said 4 times 4 times 4, we would have found it. So r is equal to 256, not 256, 4. So our explicit formula is going to be recursive, is going to be an minus 1 times 4. All right, let's do the last one. Question number 26. We're going to set this up. So 3,888 is equal to a1 times our ratio to the 5 minus 1 is 4. And then our second one is going to be 108 is equal to a1 times r to the 3 minus 1 is 2. I'm going to do the second one. You could do either one. You could take the first one. You could take the r to the 4th, substitute it in for the r squared, but I'm going to do the right one just because it'll make me have the bigger exponent on top. What do you want, Walter? Yeah? Yeah? My cat's meowing at me. He wants attention. So my first term is going to be equal to 108 divided by r squared. So again, I'm going to take that 108 divided by r squared and substitute it in for our a1. So this is going to be 3,888 is equal to a, it's going to repeat my verbiage. Let's go ahead. 108 divided by r squared times r to the 4th. So then this is going to become 3888 is equal to 108 r squared, because 4 minus 2 is 2. Divide by 108. 3,808 divided by 108 is 36. So that's going to be r squared is equal to 36. Square root of both sides. R is going to be equal to 6. Now, yes, when we take the square root of a number, we always take the plus or the minus. But in this case, we're only looking at the positive. So our ratio is 6. So our explicit formula is going to be I keep saying explicit. Our recursive formula is going to be n minus 1 times 6. And we